We've all had some pretty interesting experiences while camping, especially with the weather. This is about the time that my family endured a tornado and a flood in the same trip. So earlier this year, spring of 2021, my boys were on spring break, and we decided to take a camping trip, get out a little bit, still trying to do the social distance thing, and be mindful of that. As I'm sure you well know, if you've tried to book a campsite, they are extremely difficult, especially the prime campsites. And my wife specifically wanted this resort on the Gulf, beachfront, and in order to be able to just walk out the camper straight to the beach. It was fantastic. We got down there. It was a short drive down, but we were only able to book 2 nights at that campsite. So we were able to look up on one more night further down the beach at a different campsite that we had been to before, which was great. So make it into a 3-night camping trip. Not too long of a camping trip. What can go wrong, right? So we're enjoying our first couple of days there. 30-second walk to the sand. You know, it's just a great little resort, clean, tidy, and just enjoying some good family time together. And I had heard from a coworker about a specific donut shop that was just down the road. The kind where they open up at 6 o'clock and they sell out by 9. So I knew I had to try it. That morning I got up, wife was still in bed, kids were still asleep, and I jumped in the truck to go down to the donut shop. It was raining a little bit. So, proceeded with a little bit of caution, but just normal stuff. So drove down to the donut shop, got the donuts. By the time I got back out, it was raining pretty heavy. What we would refer to as a gully washer here in this area. So drive back again with a little more caution than before, just kind of taking my time. The water on the roads down there just tends to sit on the road a little more, so I was in no rush. Got back to the campground probably 9:30, 10 o'clock, and worked my way through the main front part of the campground, and then around a bend before there's a little dip in the road. So there's this dip in the road where there's a retention pond on one side, and then it goes back up before it hits the final campsites before the beachfront. So as I round this curve, I see that there's something there that wasn't there before. And that's a small pond that had crossed the road. And this pond, based on what I could see from it, was not just a shin deep kind of a puddle that we would expect. It was beyond knee deep when I got to it, which I had only driven away 45 minutes prior maybe. So the road went under the water, and it looked like you traveled probably about 100 feet before you came back up and out. So I knew it couldn't have been that deep. And I was driving a heavy-duty Chevy 2500 at the time with a small lift and some 35-inch tires, so I figured it would drive through it just fine. I knew the water wasn't as deep as my airbox. So I decided to just go ahead and give it a little throttle and push right on through and hope for the best. So I started making it through the water, and immediately my truck just starts blaring alarms at me. I'm thinking that, oh my gosh, these sensors on this motor, they're so sensitive, they're already freaking out that I'm driving through water. But it was just my parking sensors. So parking sensors on this truck, again, being a little bit bigger. The bumper on this truck was about waist high, so probably 36 to 40 inches deep. And sure enough, my truck thought I was about to hit something because of water on the front sensors. Made it through the other side. No big deal. Hoped that everything underneath would just dry right on out, and pulled up to the campsite to my wife and kids, who were none the wiser. I went inside with the donuts, and we enjoyed those, and I explained that it would probably be a little bit before we could leave the campsite, even though checkout was at 11. We just decided to kind of wait it out. The rain, according to the radar, was starting to work its way out. It would be out soon. So once the rain started lifting, I stepped outside along with a lot of other local campers. And when I stepped out, the pond had grown. The pond was now at least waist deep, if not even a little further in its deepest portion. And it was probably 150 feet. You could actually see the edge of the pond within a stone's throw of the front of the camper. It would have had to have grown immensely to be able to get up to where the camper was, because it was kind of sitting up on a little crest of a hill. But nevertheless, there's only one way in and out of this campsite, and that's through this pond. So I called up to the front office and kind of made them aware that we wouldn't be leaving anytime soon, because I wasn't going to drive a camper built out of wood and steel through a pond. Just didn't make sense. So as things are kind of dying down with the weather, and the pond is still not dying down in terms of its size, I went and asked the workers who had started up, I believe, 3 different sump pumps, how long this would take. And they said, well, we really don't know. We only have to pull these out during hurricanes. We certainly weren't in a hurricane, at least as far as what I knew. But I can tell you it was a lot of water. So we gave it some time, and they kind of urged us to get moving, and I let them know that as soon as I felt like it was safe to drive a camper where only the tires were going to get wet through the pond, that I would do so. So we just kind of waited it out, took our time packing up. During that time, I watched 2 probably $250,000 motorhomes just drive right through it like it wasn't a big deal. To each their own. Hopefully I never see one of those in trade, because I can only imagine what those compartments full of water would smell like after the fact. Things kind of die down. We're finally able to drive out where we're just getting tires and maybe axles wet. No big deal. So we check out shortly after noon, and head right on down to our last night of camping at the secondary campsite. I thought everything in terms of the excitement and fun was behind us, but there was more to come. So we get to the campsite, do our normal thing. We take the kids to the game room, and it's raining a little bit here and there. So we do game room and indoor putt-putt and that sort of thing. The stuff you normally do when you're in a, touristy kind of a town. The next morning we wake up a little bit early. My wife and I start, getting ready and kind of packing up a little more, and the kids were sleeping in. And the rain started coming in, kind of similar to the day before. This time we weren't really near any sort of a lowland in terms of getting out of the campsite or the campground. But we were just being mindful of the weather, as you normally are. And as time went on, there was a little more movement in the RV. We at one point I pulled up the blinds to kind of check it out, and the rain was just coming in droves. I'm watching pool floats go whizzing by, and I believe I even saw a couple of chairs, if I'm not mistaken. So everything's just really blowing around, and this wind is really just rocking this camper. Back and forth, front to back. It felt like we were almost rolling on the tires a little bit. It's just a little too much for comfort. So my wife and I finally gave each other the look, knowing that it was time to get on out of the camper and seek some shelter. So I grabbed the 4-year-old and strapped him into his car seat and got sopping wet in the process. 12-year-old hopped in, groggy and tired and just wanting to go back to sleep. And so we hopped back in the truck and headed back west, a little bit towards the direction we had come from the prior night, but still staying in the same town. And we went to the Walmart parking lot, knowing that if anybody's going to let us in the doors, then we can go into Walmart. By the time we got to the parking lot, it was actually just raining. The wind had kind of subsided, so we just waited it out in the truck in the parking lot, and it felt overall pretty safe. And so we thought that, maybe we had just seen the worst of the storm and it was no big deal. Went back to the campsite, finished packing up, and before we left for home, we pulled up some news, and we had found out that, sure enough, a waterspout had come in off the Gulf and hit land. And for a Georgia boy like me, my understanding is it's a tornado on the land and it's a waterspout over the water. So waterspout transforms into tornado, and it had passed only another mile or two away from where we had stopped at the Walmart. So we actually went closer to the tornado as opposed to further away. So that was 3 nights of adventure on one single camping trip, and quite the experience it was.